The UA Sports Festival. The next step in his hero journey, Izuku Midoriya would take front center stage in front of the entire crowd. He would begin his speech, and it was something simple, light, and he would tell everybody that this will be one entertaining sports festival, far more entertaining than anyone they've ever seen, and he promises that. Izuku makes this as a statement and a declaration and says that he's going to do his best, and he's sure everyone else is as well, to come out on top. Izuku would step off the podium and the crowd would go screaming. Girls would freaking obviously go crazy and boys would be jealous as heck. But nonetheless, Izuku Midoriya would head back to his class and get ready for the sports festival to begin. Midnight comes out and begins to speak to everybody, explaining exactly what the first event would be. That first event, well, it's the obstacle course race. The obstacle course race is simple enough. It all starts with a corridor and then ends with basically a minefield. They don't know this for sure, but of course, the obstacle course race would be told and is about to begin. And that is exactly where we're going to start for What If Deku Was a Quirkless Prodigy Part 3. Yo, what is good, everybody? It's your boy Golden Falls, Golden What If, whatever you want to call me, and I'm back. I'm back with Part 3 of What If Deku Was a Quirkless Prodigy, and y'all seem to be enjoying it. I'm glad you guys are. I think this is, honestly, personally, I think this is one of my better Deku What Ifs overall. I think the thumbnail is a lot better than most of them. I think the idea is pretty good. I think it's not super original, but I think it's pretty good in general. We're gonna keep on trucking. Yeah, I'm not gonna say much more. We're gonna try to finish this series and also finish the Naruto series, and then we'll basically be saying goodbye to those series, and we'll go on to some new ones that I have no idea what I'm doing next, but hey, we'll figure it out as we go. Nonetheless, I hope y'all enjoy. Like I say all the time, leave a like, leave a sub, check the description below for all the links that you want to check out, maybe even the membership, leave suggestions below in the comment section, and that's about it. Let's just get right back into the what if. Let's get it. And of course, the obstacle course race would begin. All of the classes, everybody, Class 1A, Class 1B, and everybody else would go storming through the corridor. Izuku using this advantage to basically just swing across the corridor with relative ease, speeding past mostly everybody. As he looks behind him, he sees that Todoroki himself has frozen over the corridor, and he realizes that is one heck of an advantage. Nonetheless, he keeps sprinting forward as he sees the giant robots, the zero pointers. In fact, Izuku just uses his black whip to swing across each one, and even using and utilizing danger sense every time he thinks he's about to get hit. He dodges out of the way with relative ease, and he gets past those big robots as if it were nothing. The next part is this large ravine, but I'll be honest, the large ravine is cleared in one foul swoop with Izuku. Izuku being able to use an extremely high amount of One For All already, being at 60%, he leaps it like it's nothing, and he's already onto the minefield. Looking at the minefield, he doesn't really think much of it, avoiding things as quick as possible, using danger sense to his advantage so he can maneuver around every single explosion or every single mine. This is extremely easy, and out of nowhere, Izuku is done. Izuku just broke so many records. Any records that basically were held on the obstacle race were shattered by Izuku. It wasn't even close. He destroyed them, and he stood in front of the entire crowd as they screamed his name. They're basically super impressed, and frankly, they all believe that Izuku is on the track to being the #1 hero. Of course, you have everybody else fall in line. You have Todoroki next, then Bakugou, and Bakugou is absolutely livid, pissed that Izuku was able to get the leg up on him again, and he made it look easy this time. Nonetheless, he swears that he's going to win this time around, and just as they begin to basically hear about this next event, they hear that it's actually called the Cavalry Battle. The Cavalry Battle deals with points that everybody has, and the first place winner is going to have 1 million points. Izuku is shocked to hear this, but kind of smiles. And frankly, everybody knows how good Izuku is, but are still kind of scared. It's a big target on your back, and do they really want to do that? Nonetheless, he would have his original team. He would eventually get Mei Hatsume, he would get Ochaku Uraka, Tokiyami, and that was about it. But at the same time, did he really need anybody else? Izuku is extremely strong himself, he's extremely tactical, and frankly, one plan, and that's all it would take. Using Izuku's danger sense, Izuku would be able to just bob and weave anybody that would try to grab his band. And frankly, everyone else's band, it didn't matter. As long as Izuku had his, it was over. Izuku would wait for people to try to capitalize, and of course, here and there people would. Even Todoroki's group would try, but one flick of his finger, they'd get sent off away. Of course, they continue to do this over and over again until his danger sense begins to ramp up like crazy. He looks around to see where Bakugou is. Maybe it's Bakugou himself about to blast him in his face. No, it's not. He looks around, Bakugou being over on the other side of the arena. He looks to his left and sees Tenya Ida charging up his boosters, about to use a reciprocal burst to grab his headband. Luckily, Izuku was able to catch this off immediately, telling Tokiyami to get Dark Shadow right in the place. Right as Dark Shadow swings through, Ida slams into Dark Shadow, and Dark Shadow is able to punch them all to the ground with relative ease, and Izuku is able to blast them the rest away by wrapping Black Whip around them and throwing them to the other side of the stage. The time is running out and extremely low. Everybody begins to converge on Izuku's group, but frankly, their defenses have been absolutely flawless, and they will continue to be flawless. Well, like I said, they might have been closing in, but so has time, and time just ran out. Luckily, everybody that would have made it normally in canon did make it, but Izuku would make it clean as heck. It wouldn't even be close. Izuku would keep the 1,000,000 points, and he would be on top, the first place winner on both events. All Might watching down currently from the teacher arena, where basically all the teachers are watching, and he's smiling, knowing that Izuku has the potential to take it all the way with relative ease. Just as he's beginning to think this, immediately the other matches are basically told. Luckily, they'll have a 10-minute rest. Izuku will be able to get his bearings, but his first match is against someone from the general studies, Shinso. Luckily, someone from his class, luckily enough, tells him exactly what Shinso is going to bring, telling him that Shinso is going to try to brainwash him by asking him questions. Once Izuku hears this, the fight is already over. But frankly, that quirk, it's extremely strong. He's surprised that he's in, the general studies. But he does realize that, when he was going to actually do the UA entrance exam, the robots would have been a problem without One For All. Yes, he was physically strong, to a certain extent, but who says he would have been able to sweep the leg of a robot and destroy it in time? Maybe the 1-pointers, but the 2 and 3-pointers, that would have been impossible. Same thing with the 0-pointer, that would have been extra impossible. But he begins to think, this guy Shinso, he must be extremely strong, but he's basically pulled back by, the society. Basically how they evaluate heroes. Nonetheless, Izuku smiles and begins to head off and gets his little bit of rest in until the next match against Shinso. The next match against Shinso is about to begin, and Izuku doesn't even activate his quirk. Shinso begins to bark orders at him, saying this, saying that, calling him a horrible person, calling him gifted, calling him basically this person of greatness. Oh, does he really feel like he's so much better than him? But without really saying much at all, literally, Izuku would approach Shinso and continue and begin to fight him, hand-to-hand combat. But this fighting was different. Izuku kept egging Shinso on just by his body movements, trying to get Shinso to do certain things. And immediately when Shinso would throw his right hand, Izuku would grab it and act like he's throwing Shinso's right hand toward Izuku, as if he's trying to emulate how to actually throw the right hand properly. Is he teaching Shinso how to fight in a battle? That's exactly what he's doing. Izuku is showing him multiple martial arts and how to properly using it without saying a word. Yes, of course, Shinso's not going to get it down perfectly. Nobody's that crazy. Even Izuku, being a prodigy himself, wasn't that insane. He wasn't instantly knowing all of these martial arts. He had to learn throughout the years. But he's teaching Shinso here and there. Shinso himself, in the beginning, thinking that it's some basically strategy to mess with his head. But he realizes that Izuku is straight up helping him, teaching him, helping him learn how to fight. Izuku continues doing this, and eventually Izuku realizes there's not much more he can even teach him on this battlefield. He taught him enough. Izuku basically grabs him and appears out of bounds and drops him out. And after dropping him out, he begins to tell Shinso that soon they'll definitely train together. He has some martial arts teachers himself that he can definitely send him to, but Izuku doesn't mind training him himself. Izuku smiles and says that soon he'll be in basically one of the classes with him, and he promises that. Izuku says that his quirk is so unique, and there's a reason why he wasn't able to make it into UA, at least the hero courses. Because, I mean, what was he supposed to do? How was he going to destroy robots? He understands that, but his quirk is powerful, and it can definitely be utilized properly. Izuku promises once again that he'll train him and get him stronger, get him basically up to par with martial arts, and he's sure that someone else would definitely be interested in doing so as well. He looks up toward the announcer group as Aizawa gives him a slight thumbs up, and Izuku heads off and gets prepared for his next match. And well, let's just say that next match is going to finally end the debate. Izuku versus Todoroki. Todoroki is a powerful person, and Izuku during this fight realizes though he's only using his ice. Like, why? Izuku begins to question him as he dodges with relative ease. It's pretty obvious that there's an agility disparity with Izuku compared to Todoroki. Even when Todoroki's not tired or anything, it seems like Izuku can basically just kite him and basically get away like it's nothing. Eventually Izuku would egg him on more and more. What are you doing? Use your full power. What are you gonna do? Use half your power? Half your strength? I might as well knock you out now. This is boring. It's useless to continue fighting like this. Izuku turns his back to Todoroki as danger sense flares off as ice gets sent to him, and he just backflips over it. Seriously. Fire. Use it. I know you can. Immediately Todoroki scoffs and says that he'll never use that old man's power, but Izuku would eventually crack into basically Todoroki's head, telling him that's not his old man's power, that's his power. Immediately Todoroki would erupt in flames, and Izuku would smile and begin to wave his hand toward Todoroki, telling him to bring it everything. The fire and the ice would boil over and get blasted toward Izuku, and Todoroki says that, well, it's not his fault if he gets hurt. Izuku shoots one Detroit smash through all of the ice and the fire, and just as that Detroit smash is going, he flips over it, flicking toward Todoroki as he gets smacked by this air pressure, and he immediately grabs him with Black Whip and throws him out. Todoroki is sitting there in complete shock. How did he do that so quickly? Izuku already had a plan to knock out Todoroki. Even if he used his fire, there was no chance in winning this fight. Izuku goes out and helps Todoroki up and says that there doesn't need to be some ill will rivalry between them. He didn't want him to use the firepower because, well, his father put him up to it or anything like that. He wanted him to use it because now he can truly be the hero he wants to be. Izuku makes this abundantly clear and says that forgiving his father for whatever he did is none of his business. It's none of Izuku's business at all. It's all up to Todoroki. Izuku then heads off and gets ready for his next fight, which will be against Tenya Ida. But frankly, let's be honest, that fight is going to be a complete wash. We've seen how Izuku just outmatches him, but I think the one we are all curious in is the one against Bakugou. In the finals, we finally got it. Izuku Midoriya versus Katsuki Bakugou. The fight that Bakugou wanted so bad. The rematch against, well, this quirkless loser that he had so much over. But now he just lost the grip. But what he didn't realize is that when he was brooding, when he was freaking out, Izuku was training. Izuku was working. And this is exactly what Izuku's been doing his entire life. Izuku's ready for this fight. And when it begins, well, Bakugou comes out with a pretty solid strategy. Hit and run. Izuku knows that once he gets his hands on Bakugou, the fight is over. Multiple explosion after explosion, trying to basically limit the footing of Izuku But just as Bakugou's plan seems to be going well, Izuku grabs him by the arm and slams him on the ground. And Bakugou looks up at Izuku thinking that the fight's already over. But Izuku lets go and tosses him away and waves his hand toward him as if he's saying, "Let's go again." Izuku continues to do this, and it's as if he was humiliating Bakugou. It wasn't that he wanted to do so. It's not that he wanted to humiliate him. He was teaching him something. That there was more to all of this. That even when he was quirkless, there was more. He's relying way too heavily on his quirk, his raw power, thinking that's all that matters. Izuku proves that to be otherwise. Strategy, fighting styles, knowing how to adapt, that all matters. But at the end of the day, this would end with one victor and one victor only, and that's Izuku Midoriya, and he'll be standing at the top of the pedestal when Bakugou gets slammed to the ground, grabbed by Black Whip, and thrown out of bounds like nothing. Izuku makes it apparent that there are levels to this, and he's on a way higher level than everybody in the first year. Arguably on the level of third years, maybe even higher than that, but we don't really know because he's never fought them. Nonetheless, Izuku would eventually take the stand with everybody as well, with Todoroki, or with Bakugou, with him, and then also one other, which would be actually Tokiyami. No? Yeah, Tokiyami. And they begin to get their medals. Bakugou kind of mad, but at the same time, he's realized it. He realizes that he's just outclassed at the moment, that he has to work harder. So he's not going to be all explosive like normal, but at the same time, whoever's watching knows the personality of Bakugou and knows what he wants. He knows, or they know that he wants to beat Izuku. So maybe that's something they'll use to their favor. But nonetheless, Izuku would still be given the #1 medal by All Might, the #1 hero, and All Might gives him a thumbs up, being proud of practically his son figure, and he's happy to see Izuku doing so well. But frankly, this should be expected. Handpicked by Aizawa, and a kid that worked so hard from the brink. From the very moment that he was told he didn't have a quirk and that he should figure out whatever else he wanted to do, Izuku found a way, and now he's here. Now he showed everybody else that he truly is that next step in hero society. Nonetheless, after that entire debacle, they would get to school the next day, and Aizawa would announce all of the internships that they gathered, Izuku and Todoroki being at the very, very top. Izuku because, well, he won and did crazy good. Todoroki because of his father. But nonetheless, everything seemed to be pretty well. Izuku would look through what he got, who he got, and where he could go, and he's not really decided. He's not so sure where he wants to go, or basically if he should go basically to Endeavors, maybe someone like Mirako. He's not sure, but he does realize something. Maybe, just maybe, the rabbit hero would be a good choice. I mean, his martial arts is heavy in arms and grappling, and yes, he has kicks, but he's not amazing with his kicks. He'd love to get better in terms of his kickboxing, so he feels that maybe that would be the way to go. He makes the checks, and he checks them twice, and he sends it in, and he makes an agreement saying that he'll go for his internship to the rabbit hero Mirako. Of course, that would go as well as you'd think. After some time, and eventually a car would pick him up, he would arrive and Mirako would immediately want to fight. Izuku showed that his hand-to-hand combat skills is extremely good, and he asked Mirako if it's no holds bars. Can he do whatever? Mirako says yes, of course, he can use any technique he can possibly think of, and Izuku says that he's not going to use any technique. He just wanted to know if he can use all martial arts. Mirako is shocked to hear this, but smiles, saying that his little bits of martial arts won't help him. But Izuku would prove her wrong extremely fast. He tried to get his best, or try his best to get the fight on the ground. No, get your mind out the gutter, boys. All right, not like that, not like that. Alright? He tried to get the fight on the ground, obviously limiting the fighting style of Mirako herself, but at the same time, it was extremely difficult. But once he got it on the ground, he was able to get her to tap out with relative ease. Mirako was extremely impressed, asking if maybe she should actually implement that in her fighting style. Izuku says that he's totally up for it as long as she can teach him how to properly use his legs in fighting, because that's what he wants, or at least expand on that. Mirako says that's definitely a deal, and that's what they end up doing over the course of this week of internships. But unfortunately, a dark cloud is coming over this entire hero society. It seems that Izuku, well, not being extremely friendly and attached to Tenya Ida, it seems something occurred. The phone would ring 4 days into internships, and that call, let's just say, was not the most nice call, was not the nicest and not the most warm call. That call was to inform Izuku that he needs to head back to UA and that the internships are getting cut short. He apologized to Mirako that he wasn't able to teach her more, and Mirako says the same, but he should have and will have extreme amounts of benefit with his legs now. Izuku smiles and thanks her as he leaves. When he arrives at UA, they're unfortunately told some horrible news. The hero killer Stain, well, he killed Tenya Ida. Luckily enough, Endeavor and many others that were there were able to capture him in this basically horrible act, and Endeavor was able to take him down, obviously with some scars and some badly injured wounds, but he was still able to take him down. But unfortunately enough, Tenya Ida was killed in battle. He put himself in a situation that he couldn't get himself out of, and Izuku wasn't there to bail him out. Unfortunately, this story will go on without Tenya, but the heroes will now have an even bigger boost in morale to make sure that they do their absolute best so none of this ever happens to anybody else ever again. Izuku, Bakugou, Todoroki, everybody would push themselves to the brinks, and they'd be ready for the final exams that were to come. The written portion would approach, they'd finish it up with relative ease, and Izuku, being extremely smart, would have no trouble in that regard. But when we get to, well, the final exam, the practical, it's going to be a little bit different. It's Bakugou and Izuku, but it's not against robots, and it won't be. And after everybody figures out who they're going up against, being that the teachers, Izuku and Bakugou realize who they're going up against. All Might comes crashing down, and of course, it's the number one hero, All Might. All Might is going to be their opponent for the final practical exam. Of course, if they lose, they fail. And if they fail, they don't go to the forest training camp. At least that's what they've been told. So this battle means a lot. Izuku tells Bakugou they should plan, but Bakugou, of course, blows him off, saying that he doesn't want to plan. He'll beat All Might on his own. Izuku just knows that this wouldn't be the case. He knows that he might be able to go up against All Might 1 versus 1 now. He's not 100% sure in terms of raw strength how he fares up, but he's sure that he fares up pretty well. Nonetheless, after not planning at all, Bakugou and Izuku would go head to head at All Might in an abandoned city that was set up. They charge forward, and Bakugou wants to go in by himself. So what he decides to do is blast Izuku into the wall. He immediately leaves Izuku in the dust, Izuku basically shrugging this off, not knowing why Bakugou really wants to do this. Izuku eventually would head over there, and when he arrives, he sees him going head to head with All Might. But of course, All Might would get the better of him, but just as All Might is about to punch him in the back of the head to knock him out, Izuku comes barreling in with the same style of Mirako. One right leg first, straight to the jaw, at 65% of one for all, flatlines All Might. sending him flying toward the building. All Might even staggers to stand up. Izuku then kicks him once again in the ribs, and then the other ribs as well. Not even knowing where the injury was, Izuku just realizes that he lands perfectly on it, not really thinking too much about it, but he then sweeps All Might's legs as he basically is in a crazy amount of pain, and grabs All Might with Black Whip, throwing him into the air and kicking him out of range. He goes over to grab Bakugou as he picks him up, Bakugou pushing Izuku out of the way and even punching him in the face. Izuku tells him to calm down, to stop doing this. Ever since they were kids, this is all he wanted. He wanted to be stronger, be better. And just when Izuku's quirk came about, well, now Bakugou is pissed. Now Bakugou realizes that he lost his advantage. Izuku makes this apparent and decides something. He chops Bakugou on the back of the neck, knocking him out, grabbing him and jumping away, and they eventually will exit. And obviously they win. And Aizawa looks at this and sees the potential of Izuku, but questions Bakugou just a little bit. He needs to get Bakugou out of this psyche. And, well, since he lost, since Bakugou quote-unquote won, but frankly we all know that's still a loss, Bakugou will be, well, taking extra classes, but a little bit differently. Aizawa wants some one-on-one to make sure Bakugou gets out of this mindset. This is a horrible mindset to be in, and, well, they'll figure that out pretty soon. Izuku would go see how All Might's doing, and All Might is extremely impressed, seeing how much he's grown over this course of time. It's really hasn't been that long, not even a year yet, and Izuku has made leaps, absolute leaps. Izuku smiles and thanks him and believes that he can still use some more training. So luckily he passed, so he'll be going to the forest training camp. Aizawa makes it pretty clear that, well, everyone was going, but he wanted to put some extra pressure on them. Nonetheless, it is time for them to pack, get ready, and head off to the buses tomorrow. And that's exactly what they do. They head off on the buses and they get ready for hell, so that they can start training like crazy and get ready for whatever's to come next. Izuku and everybody on the bus would eventually arrive at the training camp. At least that's what they think. Being on a cliff overlooking the training camp with the Wild Pussycats. And, well, that's because they're about to get launched off a cliff. Immediately this earth begins to bend and the waves begin to be created in the ground and they get thrown off. But just as Aizawa was about to walk back in the bus, he looks up to see Izuku sitting on the bus. Yeah, that wasn't very nice, guys. You know, heads up's always good. What if some people can't fly? That's a long drop down there, guys. You realize that, right? Izuku starts kind of laughing and gets back up and begins to walk away. Aizawa telling the Wild Pussycats that he told them so, that this kid is the real deal. Izuku follows, just does a front flip off the cliff and follows suit with the rest of his class, and their training in the forest training camp is about to begin. But that is for part 4 of What If Deku Was a Quirkless Prodigy. If you enjoyed, make sure to leave a like, make sure to leave a sub, all that good stuff. Sorry about my voice. I don't know what's happening right now. All that good stuff. Description, check all the links, and leave suggestions below. I need more suggestions for Deku what ifs, all the what ifs and stuff. I have a Naofumi what if, sort of in the works. I have a thumbnail for it, or I have a image for it. So if y'all like Naofumi stuff, that's coming eventually. I've been enjoying the Naruto, My Hero, Tanjiro mix a little bit more at the moment. That's why I'm doing them. Nonetheless, I hope y'all enjoyed. I hope all y'all have an amazing day. Later.